Entire societies once gathered for celebrations that defined their world. These 22 forgotten festivals were not simple parties. They were the very engines of belief, art, and community. By the end of this journey, you will understand the hidden origins of our own cultural traditions. We will uncover why Roman priests ran naked through the streets and what secret rites promised eternal life. What part of your own celebrations might connect to these ancient fires? Deep within the subterranean darkness, the women of Athens performed a ritual that would be unthinkable in the open air. They retrieved the decomposed remains of piglets, offerings cast into ritual pits months before. This powerful act of handling decay was the heart of the Thesmophoria, a sacred festival where the entire social order was temporarily upended. For 3 days, married women took control of the city, creating a separate community free from male influence. They fasted, they mourned, and they reenacted the grief of the goddess Demeter for her daughter, Persephone, who was taken to the underworld. The symbolism was layered and profound. The piglets were sacred to Demeter herself, and their descent into the pits and subsequent return mirrored Persephone's own cyclical journey between the world of the living and the dead. The decay represented death, but the retrieval was an act of rebirth, a magical gesture intended to fertilize the fields and ensure the next harvest. This was not a protest, but a profound societal pressure valve. By ritually embodying the forces of life and death, these women reinforced their essential, if often unseen, role as the guardians of fertility, both for the land and for their own families. Their collective action, their shared secret knowledge, forged an unbreakable bond of female solidarity, reminding everyone that the community's survival was literally in their hands. This deep connection to the Earth's power, channeled through a temporary social inversion, leads us to a celebration where nature's raw, untamed force was not just honored, but actively courted. While the women of Athens channeled the Earth's deep fertility, the heart of ancient Rome erupted in a spectacle of raw public chaos. Young priests, the Luperci, ran nearly naked through the city's sacred boundary, their bodies anointed with blood and milk. In their hands were strips of freshly sacrificed goat hide, and they wielded them not as weapons but as blessings, lashing out at any woman who crossed their path. Each stinging strike was believed to cure infertility and ensure easy childbirth, a primal form of magic that turned pain into promise. This was the Lupercalia, a festival of such ancient power that its origins were lost to time, traced back to the very myth of Rome's founding. It was said that Romulus and Remus, the city's infant founders, were nourished by a she-wolf in the very cave, the Lupercal, where the rites began. The festival channeled that wild, untamable spirit, connecting the polished marble of the Forum to the raw forces of the natural world. But this was more than just a fertility rite. The running priests purified the city's sacred path, driving out malevolent spirits and cleansing the community for the year to come. It was a ritual of social reset, where the controlled order of Roman life was temporarily shattered to allow a more fundamental, chaotic power to surge through the streets and ensure its continued strength. This direct physical engagement with belief feels a world away from later religions, a reminder of a time when the divine was not a distant concept to be prayed to, but a tangible force to be harnessed through collective, ecstatic action. From this earthly frenzy, we look to a culture that sought to command a power far beyond the streets, reaching directly for the heavens above. The hills of ancient Ireland and Scotland erupted in flame each spring, a breathtaking signal that the dark half of the year had finally ended. On the eve of May 1st, great communal bonfires were lit, their smoke curling into the twilight as a vital, sacred act. the very survival of the community depended on what happened next. Herds of cattle, the primary source of wealth and sustenance, were solemnly driven between two of these great fires. This was not a simple cattle drive, but a profound ritual of purification and blessing. The Celts believed the smoke and flame would magically cleanse the animals of disease and protect them from malevolent spirits in the coming season. This was Beltane, one of the 4 great fire festivals of the Celtic year, a pivotal celebration marking the start of the pastoral summer. Every element of the festival was charged with meaning. People would take flames from the sacred communal bonfires to relight their own hearths, a powerful symbol of shared community and renewed life. The famous maypole dances, with their brightly colored ribbons woven into intricate patterns, were not mere entertainment. They were a symbolic reenactment of the sacred union between earth and sky, a ritual to encourage the fertility of the land, the animals, and the people themselves. Beltane wove a complex tapestry of belief that connected everyone directly to the land and the cycles of the sun. It forged a powerful, unbreakable sense of shared identity and purpose, reminding each person that their individual fortune was inextricably linked to the health of the whole. This deep, fiery connection to the Earth's rebirth finds a fascinating parallel in another culture's celebration of light, one that illuminated an empire on the other side of the known world. While the Celts purified their world with fire, the Romans perfected a different kind of societal magic. In the heart of winter, the entire rigid structure of the Roman Empire was turned inside out. Masters served elaborate meals to their slaves, who could speak their minds without fear of punishment. Gambling, normally a forbidden public vice, erupted on street corners, and a single, randomly chosen man was crowned the king of the Saturnalia, the lord of misrule, whose absurd decrees were to be obeyed by all. This was the Saturnalia, a week-long festival honoring Saturn, the god of a lost golden age of abundance and equality. It was a world in reverse, a deliberate and total social inversion. The normal rules of dignity, rank, and order were not just relaxed, they were ceremoniously overthrown. Yet this chaos was meticulously planned. The festival acted as a brilliant social pressure valve, allowing the frustrations and tensions built up over the year in a highly stratified society to be released in a burst of controlled, licensed mayhem. By letting off this steam, the Saturnalia ultimately reinforced the very hierarchy it seemed to challenge. When the festival ended and the world snapped back to normal, the established social order felt more permanent and justified, having survived its own temporary annihilation. The echoes of this ancient Roman holiday are surprisingly loud in our own time. The tradition of gift-giving, especially small wax candles and clay dolls called sigillaria, was a central part of the celebration, a direct precursor to our own winter holiday exchanges. The spirit of merrymaking, of feasting and singing in the streets, carries forward through the centuries. The Saturnalia shows us that a festival could be a powerful tool for social stability, not by enforcing order, but by temporarily embracing its opposite. This theme of a world turned upside down for a greater purpose would reappear in history, though sometimes with a far more somber and chilling objective. While the Saturnalia reveled in winter's social inversion, spring in Rome brought a celebration of pure, unapologetic sensory delight. The city erupted in a riot of color and scent during the Floralia, a week-long festival honoring Flora, the goddess of blossoms and the season of renewal. The streets and theaters were filled with vibrant performances, from traditional plays to bawdy mime shows that pushed the boundaries of propriety. The air itself was part of the ritual, filled with the petals of countless flowers showered upon the crowds, while beans and lupines were scattered everywhere as powerful charms for fertility and abundance. This was not a somber religious obligation. It was a public, joyous explosion celebrating the beauty and pleasure of life itself. The Floralia's immense popularity created a powerful economic engine for the arts, as the state and wealthy patrons funded these elaborate productions to gain public favor. This established a direct, tangible link between religious devotion and cultural innovation, ensuring that theater, music, and dance were not mere entertainments but essential components of civic and spiritual life. The festival forged a unique communal bond through shared, unbridled joy, a collective embrace of the sensual world returning to life after the bleakness of winter. It was a powerful reminder that belief could be expressed through celebration as much as through solemnity. This Roman celebration of life's vibrant surface through art and performance stands in stark contrast to the deep, internal journey demanded by our next festival, which turned not toward the blooming world, but toward the silent voices of the ancestors. Yet while the Floralia celebrated life's vibrant surface, Roman spirituality held a much darker, more intimate counterpart. In the profound silence of midnight, the head of the household would rise from his bed, his feet bare on the cold floor. He was the paterfamilias, and his home was now his temple. This was the Lemuria, a private, somber festival dedicated to appeasing the restless dead. The ritual was precise and eerie. He would walk through the darkened house, making a specific hand gesture to ward off spirits, and then cast black beans over his shoulder without looking back. As he did this, he recited a powerful incantation, 9 times repeating, "With these beans I redeem me and mine." The belief was that the hungry, wandering ghosts, the lemures, would follow and consume the beans, taking their spectral sustenance and leaving the living family in peace. This was not a public spectacle of joy, but a deeply personal act of spiritual housekeeping. It reveals a layer of Roman belief where the ancestral world was not a distant, revered memory, but an immediate and potentially dangerous presence. The lemures were not friendly guardian spirits. They were often the spirits of those who had died without proper rites or who bore a grudge, and they needed to be actively pacified. This festival created a profound, if fearful, bond between the living and the dead, a private acknowledgement that the family unit extended beyond the grave and required constant, careful maintenance. How different this quiet, domestic fear is from our next celebration, where the dead were not seen as malevolent ghosts to be appeased, but as wise and beloved ancestors invited to a joyful feast. The spirit world walked openly through the streets of ancient Athens every spring, and the living had to tread carefully. This was the Anthesteria, a 3-day festival that masterfully wove together the heady joy of new wine with the chilling presence of the dead. On the first day, the city buzzed with a unique energy as the jars of the previous year's harvest were unsealed. This was not a quiet tasting, but a city-wide communal drinking contest. People of all ages, even young children, were given their first sips of the new vintage in small, decorated jugs, symbolizing a collective welcome to the returning season of growth. But this celebration was the calm before a strange and solemn storm. The second day brought a profound shift in mood. The city fell into an eerie silence as every household sealed its doors, smearing them with pitch and chewing buckthorn leaves, a powerful charm believed to keep malevolent forces at bay. For on this day, the spirits of the dead, the Kirs, were understood to rise from the underworld and roam freely among the living. Life and death existed in a temporary, fragile truce. The final day was one of solemn dismissal. Families prepared special pots of cooked grains and vegetables, simple meals known as panspermia, and offered them to the deceased. This was not an act of fearful appeasement like the Roman Lemuria, but a respectful offering to honor and then finally usher the ancestral spirits back to their own realm, restoring the natural order. This intricate dance of celebration and solemnity, of opening the wine and then barring the doors, forged an incredible communal bond. Every single person in Athens, from the wealthiest citizen to the humblest resident, participated in the same rituals at the same time, confronting the mysteries of life, death, and renewal together. It was a public acknowledgement that joy and sorrow, life and death were two sides of the same coin, and that a healthy community had to make room for both. From this delicate Athenian balance between the living and the dead, we journey to a celebration where the entire cosmos was invited to a single, spectacular party. Even the solemn cathedrals of medieval Europe echoed with laughter at the turn of the year. Beneath the vaulted ceilings, lower-ranking clergymen would don garish masks, turn their vestments inside out, and burn old shoes as incense, filling the sacred space with the pungent smell of scorched leather. This was the Festival of Fools, a raucous celebration where the rigid hierarchy of the church was ceremoniously turned on its head. For a few sanctioned days around the 1st of January, a young choir boy would be elected the boy bishop, presiding over a deliberately absurd and chaotic mock mass. The solemn Latin liturgy was replaced with vulgar songs, and the dignified procession became a stumbling, dancing parade through the town square. This was not a rebellion born of pure disbelief, but a deeply ingrained, almost necessary tradition of sanctioned satire. The higher clergy, the bishops and deacons who normally commanded absolute obedience, were the primary targets of the jokes and parodies, their authority playfully dismantled in public view. Church authorities frequently condemned the festivities, issuing edicts against the disorder, but the tradition proved incredibly resilient, persisting for centuries in towns and villages across France and England. Why would such a seemingly irreverent spectacle be tolerated? It functioned as a brilliant social and psychological pressure valve. The immense social tensions built up in a strictly ordered, feudal society were given a temporary and controlled outlet. By allowing the lower orders to mock their superiors in a clearly defined, time-limited ritual, the festival actually drained away resentment that might otherwise have boiled over into genuine revolt. When the last joke was told and the boy bishop stepped down, the normal order returned, feeling more stable and legitimate for having survived its own comic inversion. This festival demonstrates that humor and mockery can be powerful, communal glue, a way for a community to acknowledge its own flaws and hierarchies while ultimately reaffirming its collective identity. From this raucous medieval laughter, we turn to a celebration that channeled a very different kind of power, one drawn from the silent heart of the desert. The king of Babylon, the most powerful man in the world, was about to be publicly humiliated. For 11 days, the city had been caught in a whirlwind of processions, feasts, and sacred dramas, all leading to this single, terrifying moment. This was the Akitu festival, the Mesopotamian New Year, and it was far more than a party. It was the annual reset of the entire cosmos. The ceremony reached its climax when the king was stripped of his royal regalia and brought before the towering statue of the god Marduk in his temple. He would grasp the hand of the divine statue, a gesture that symbolized his submission, and then a high priest would step forward. The priest would strike the monarch across the face, a stinging blow meant to bring tears to the king's eyes. If the king wept, it was a magnificent sign. It meant the gods were pleased and would bless the land with abundant rains and a prosperous year. If he did not, it was an omen of disaster. This profound act of ritual humiliation was the very foundation of the king's power. By publicly demonstrating that his authority was loaned to him by the gods and that it could be taken away, he reaffirmed his divine mandate to rule. The entire festival, which lasted 12 days, was a grand reenactment of the cosmic order. It included a dramatic procession where the statue of Marduk was carried from the city to a special temple outside the walls. symbolizing his journey to battle the forces of chaos. The priests would recite the Enuma Elish, the epic poem of creation, reminding everyone of Marduk's victory over the primordial sea goddess Tiamat, from whose body the world was formed. This recitation was not just a story, it was a magical act that re-established reality itself for another year. The final act was the determination of the fates, a solemn ritual where the gods collectively decided the destiny of the city and its people for the coming year. The Akitu festival was the ultimate engine of belief, art, and community. It produced a flood of new hymns, prayers, and artworks commissioned for the occasion, and it cemented in the mind of every citizen that their society was a direct reflection of the divine will, a cosmic blueprint made real on Earth. This intricate dance of politics and divinity, where a king's tears could shape the fate of an empire, stands in stark contrast to a celebration born not from cosmic order, but from the human need for purification and a clean slate. The king's ritual humiliation in Babylon was a drama of cosmic order, but another ancient culture built its entire new year around the philosophical idea of a clean slate. For over 3,000 years, the Persian New Year, Nowruz, has greeted the spring equinox not with chaotic revelry, but with a profound and beautiful order. Its name simply means new day, and its ancient Zoroastrian roots run deep, framing this moment as the annual triumph of light over darkness, truth over falsehood. The preparation for this new beginning was as important as the day itself. Weeks in advance, households undertook a massive spring cleaning known as kone to kone, which translates literally as shaking the house. This was not mere chores, it was a spiritual act, a physical cleansing meant to sweep away all the negativity and ill fortune of the old year, making space for the blessings to come. On the last Tuesday night before Nowruz, the sky would glow with small, leaping fires in neighborhoods and across fields. This was Chahar-Shand Suri, the festival of fire. People of all ages would jump over these flames, chanting a powerful phrase, "Give me your beautiful red color and take back my sickly pallor." They believed the fire would purify them, taking their sickness and problems and granting them health and vitality in return. The heart of the celebration, however, was found inside the home, at a specially prepared table called the haft scene. This was a stunning display of artistry and symbolism. 7 specific items, all starting with the Persian letter S, were arranged, each representing a hope for the new year. Sabze, sprouted wheat or lentils, symbolized rebirth. Samonu, a sweet pudding, stood for wealth and affluence. Senged, the dried fruit of the olaster tree, represented love. Seer, garlic, was for health and medicine. Seb, apples, embodied beauty. Somag, sumac berries, signified the color of sunrise and the victory of good over evil. And finally, Sirke, vinegar, was a reminder of the patience and wisdom that comes with age. This carefully curated table was more than a centerpiece. It was a visual prayer, a daily reminder to the family of the core Zoroastrian values of good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. Nowruz wove these philosophical ideals into the very fabric of daily life, creating a resilient sense of identity that has survived empires, conquests, and profound social change. It demonstrated that a festival could be a powerful vessel for transmitting not just joy, but an entire ethical worldview from one generation to the next. This celebration of cosmic order and human virtue stands in stark contrast to a festival that embraced the chaotic, the primal, and the wild forces of nature itself. High in the rugged mountains of Arcadia, a festival unfolded that was deliberately hidden from the polished world of Athenian philosophers and Roman senators. This was the Lykaia, a rite dedicated to Zeus Lykaios, the wolf Zeus, a deity of storms and the untamed wilderness. Here, Zeus was not the serene, bearded king of the gods, but a primal force intimately linked with the most feared predator of the Greek landscape. The public face of the festival involved rigorous athletic competitions for young men, tests of strength and speed held on a plain named for the wolf itself. But it was the secret nighttime rituals, whispered about even in antiquity, that cloaked the Lykaia in a terrifying aura. Ancient writers like Plato and Pausanias refer with deliberate vagueness to a single, shocking rite. According to the most chilling accounts, a portion of a sacrificial offering, often said to be human entrails mixed with those of an animal, was placed among the other offerings. A man who consumed this portion was said to be transformed, cast out from the community to live as a wolf for 9 years. If he abstained from eating human flesh during his exile, he could supposedly return to human form. Was this literal belief a terrifying story to frighten the uninitiated, or a profound symbolic drama? The power of the Lykaia lies in this very ambiguity. It forced its participants to confront the beast within, the savage potential that lay just beneath the thin veneer of civilization. In a world defined by city walls and laws, this festival was a direct channel to humanity's primal origins, to a time when the line between man and animal was blurred. It served as a brutal, necessary reminder that the forces which shaped early Greek identity were not just those of philosophy and art, but of raw survival and the ever-present threat of the wild. This exploration of transformation through a descent into savagery finds a strange parallel in another Greek celebration, one that traded the wolf's ferocity for a very different kind of divine madness. The primal transformation of the Lykaia found its echo in a very different kind of madness. While the wolf rite explored the beast within, the rites of Dionysus promised a shattering liberation from the self entirely. Beyond the public spectacle of the theater, in the shadowed forests and on remote mountainsides, the Dionysian Mysteries unfolded under the cloak of night. These were not civic ceremonies, but secret, ecstatic initiations for a chosen few. The participants, most often women who in their daily lives were bound by strict social codes, became something else entirely. They were the Bacchae, the Maenads, the raging ones. Abandoning their homes and families, they would gather to honor Dionysus, the god of wine, fertility, and uncontrollable ecstasy. The rituals were a sensory assault designed to break down the walls of individual consciousness. Driven by the relentless, hypnotic beat of drums and the sharp cry of flutes, they would dance themselves into a trance-like frenzy. Their movements were wild, unrestrained, and utterly free. Through this collective delirium, aided perhaps by the ritual consumption of wine or other intoxicants, they sought to achieve a state of divine possession. The goal was to no longer worship the god, but to become one with him, to feel his power surge through their own limbs and voices. In this sacred madness, the rigid hierarchies of the Greek polis melted away. For these women, the mysteries offered a temporary but profound escape from their prescribed roles, granting them a direct, personal, and terrifyingly immediate experience of the divine that was denied to them in the ordered temples of the city. This raw, emotional power did not stay confined to the woods. It flowed directly into the heart of Greek culture, fundamentally shaping the art of tragedy. Playwrights like Euripides, in his masterpiece The Bacchae, explored the devastating consequences of denying this primal, irrational force. The mysteries taught that beneath the facade of civilization lay a chaotic, subconscious power that could not be ignored. They forged a powerful, alternative form of community, one built not on law and order, but on the shared, transcendent experience of ecstatic release. This surrender to divine chaos stands in stark contrast to a festival where every gesture, every moment, was meticulously planned to uphold the perfect cosmic order. The meticulous order of a cosmic ritual stands in stark contrast to the sheer spectacle of civic pride. Every 4 years, the entire city of Athens erupted in a celebration so grand it was known simply as the Great Panathenaia. This was far more than a religious obligation. It was a dazzling display of Athenian power, art, and identity, all dedicated to their patron goddess Athena. The heart of the festival was a procession of breathtaking scale, a river of humanity that flowed through the city and up the sacred slope of the Acropolis. Imagine the sight: citizens of all ranks, young and old, marching alongside sacrificial animals, musicians, and foreign delegates. At the head of this magnificent parade were young Athenian women, bearing the festival's most sacred object, a new, intricately woven peplos robe. This was not just any garment, it was a masterpiece of textile art, depicting the epic battle between the gods and the giants, with Athena triumphant at the center. This robe was to be presented as a gift to the ancient wooden statue of Athena Polias, a powerful act of renewal that clothed the goddess herself and secured her continued favor for the city. But the Panathenaia was not only about this climactic moment. The festival lasted for days, filled with athletic competitions that rivaled the Olympic Games. Chariot races thundered across the plains, and runners, boxers, and wrestlers competed for glory, not just for themselves but for the honor of their city. Musical contests featured recitations of Homer's epic poems, filling the air with the foundational stories of Greek culture. Every facet of the celebration was designed to reinforce a single, powerful message: that Athens was the cultural and political center of the Greek world. This message was carved in marble for all eternity on the Parthenon itself. The famous frieze that ran around the interior of the temple is not a scene of myth, but a detailed depiction of the very Panathenaic procession, forever freezing that civic ritual in stone. It was a permanent piece of propaganda, telling every visitor that to be Athenian was to participate in this magnificent display of unity and devotion. The festival was a masterclass in civic education, blending religious fervor with patriotic pride to forge an unbreakable collective identity. This model of a state-sponsored celebration, where art, athletics, and religion were woven into a single tool for unity, presents a fascinating counterpoint to a festival that was intensely personal, secretive, and promised not civic glory, but a personal triumph over death itself. The state-sponsored glory of the Panathenaia could not protect a single stalk of wheat from a silent, creeping threat. While grand temples celebrated civic power, the survival of Rome itself depended on rituals far from the marble forum, in a simple grove on the 5th milestone of the Via Claudia. Here, the flame Quirinoles, a high priest of the most ancient order, led a solemn procession of farmers and state officials. Their purpose was starkly practical: to perform the Robigalia, a preemptive strike against a microscopic enemy, the fungal blight known as wheat rust that could turn a golden field into a blackened wasteland in weeks. The central ritual was precise and visceral. A red dog was sacrificed alongside a sheep, their blood and entrails offered to the god Robigus, the personification of the blight itself. Why a red dog? The color mirrored the destructive reddish-brown pustules of the disease, a potent piece of sympathetic magic meant to absorb the threat and appease the deity. This was not a celebration, it was a negotiation. The priests recited specific, formal prayers, a form of ritual poetry that bargained with the god, asking him to spare the crops in exchange for this carefully prescribed offering. The entire ceremony reveals a fundamental strand of early Roman belief: a world view where the divine was not a distant moral force but an integral part of the ecosystem. The gods controlled the tangible, physical processes that dictated survival, from the sun's warmth to the decay of a plant. The relationship was almost contractual. Perform the correct ritual with the correct words, and the gods would deliver the expected benefit. This was religion as a practical technology for managing risk, where the entire community's food supply was understood to hinge on the precise execution of a quiet ceremony in a rustic grove. This direct, contractual approach to the divine, focused on averting disaster, stands in sharp contrast to a festival that welcomed the dead not as a threat to be bargained with, but as honored guests returning home. The dead return home with the summer moon. Across Japan, the quiet rhythm of daily life shifts for the Bon festival, a time steeped in Buddhist tradition where the veil between worlds grows thin. Originating from the story of the Ulambana Sutra, where a disciple used his spiritual power to save his mother from suffering in the realm of hungry ghosts, Obon is a profound expression of filial piety. It is a duty, a joyful obligation to welcome back the ancestral spirits. Homes are meticulously cleaned, and family graves are visited and swept, a physical act of reverence that prepares a place for the returning souls. At the heart of the home, a special altar, the Shorio Dana, is erected. It is a work of art in itself, decorated with beautiful offerings, fresh fruit, rice cakes, and delicate lotus-shaped lanterns. This is not an altar of mourning, but one of hospitality, set for beloved guests from the other side. The community then gathers as dusk falls, not in silence, but in movement and music. The Bon Odori, the festival dance, begins. People form large concentric circles, their movements flowing and gentle, mimicking the gestures of planting and harvesting rice. This is a dance of gratitude, a way to entertain the spirits and express thanks for the sacrifices of previous generations. As the festival draws to a close, the most breathtaking moment arrives, the Toro Nagashi. Hundreds of small paper lanterns, each inscribed with a family name, are lit and set afloat on rivers, lakes, and the sea. They drift away into the darkness, a silent, glowing fleet guiding the spirits back to their world. This serene, cyclical ritual of welcome and farewell forges an unbreakable bond across time, teaching that family and community are not just for the living, but are a chain of memory linking the past, present, and future. This graceful dance of remembrance gives way to a celebration of such explosive physicality. It could only be born from the heart of the Amazon. The deep silence of the Japanese summer farewell gave way to the roaring fires of a northern winter. For 12 long nights, the Norse world huddled inside great halls, the wind howling outside like Odin's own wolves. This was Yule, a midwinter festival of survival and solidarity, where the community's will to live was forged in feasting and flame. At its heart burned the Yule log, an enormous oak trunk carefully selected and brought into the hall with great ceremony. It was not merely for warmth. This fire was a sympathetic magic, a ritual to coax the dying sun back to life. As the great log burned slowly over the 12 days, its light was a defiant promise against the endless dark, a tangible hope for the returning sun. The feasting was equally profound, a necessary and lavish display of abundance when nature offered nothing. But this was no mere party. A sacred boar dedicated to the god Freya was brought into the hall. Warriors and leaders would lay their hands upon its bristles and swear solemn oaths for the coming year, vows of bravery, loyalty, and action that were believed to be binding under the watchful eyes of the gods. It was during this time that the god Odin was said to ride through the stormy skies, leading the wild hunt, a ghostly procession of fallen warriors and spectral hounds. To hear the hunt pass overhead was both a terror and an omen, a reminder of the thin veil between the worlds and the glory that awaited the brave in the afterlife. Yule's entire structure was designed to reinforce the social fabric at its most fragile point. The shared meat and mead, the collective oath swearing, the communal warmth against the cold, all of it wove individual families into a resilient whole, ensuring that no one faced the depths of winter alone. This powerful pagan tradition did not vanish, it was absorbed. When Christianity spread north, it could not simply erase this deep-rooted celebration of light and community. Instead, it transformed it. The 12 days of Yule became the 12 days of Christmas. The Yule log symbolism of light returning was seamlessly transferred to the birth of Christ, the light of the world. Even the timing of the celebration, overlaying the pagan midwinter festival, shows how the core human needs for light, community, and hope in the darkest season can shape beliefs for 1,000 years, proving that the old gods sometimes simply changed their names. While the Norse huddled in their halls, the Nile itself became a highway for divine love. The sacred barks of Hathor and Horus, gleaming with gold and precious inlay, were carefully carried from their inner sanctums and loaded onto magnificent ceremonial boats. This was the start of the Festival of the Beautiful Reunion, a journey that turned the river into a stage for the most important marriage in Egypt. For weeks, the goddess Hathor traveled south from her temple at Dendera, while the god Horus journeyed north from his mighty sanctuary at Edfu. Their meeting was not a quiet affair. As their fleets drew near, the riverbanks would be thronged with thousands of people, the air thick with the smoke of offerings and the rhythmic beat of drums and sistrums. The ecstatic music was a specific call to Hathor, the goddess of joy, love, and music herself. When the two divine vessels finally met, the celebration reached a fever pitch. The statues were brought together in a symbolic marriage ceremony, a cosmic union that renewed the very fabric of existence. This was more than a metaphor for fertility. The Egyptians believed the gods themselves required this rejuvenation, that their divine energy could wane without this annual act of love. The subsequent fertility of the land, the predictable rise and fall of the Nile, and the very stability of the kingdom were all seen as direct results of this ritual. And who stood at the center of this divine drama? The pharaoh. He was the living embodiment of Horus, and his queen was closely associated with Hathor. Their own royal power and legitimacy were inextricably tied to the success of this festival. The entire spectacle was a masterwork of political theater, a beautiful, joyous, and emotionally overwhelming display that visually demonstrated the pharaoh's unique role as the mediator between the gods and the people. It integrated art, music, and religion into a single, unforgettable experience that bound every citizen, from the highest official to the lowest farmer, to the health of the cosmos and the throne. This brilliant use of pageantry to cement a shared world finds a strange and powerful echo in a ceremony that traded the sun-drenched Nile for the shadowy realm of mystical initiation. The promise of a blessed afterlife was not found in public prayers, but in a secret whispered for 2,000 years. Just a day's walk from Athens, the sanctuary of Eleusis held a mystery so profound that initiates faced death for revealing it. What happened inside the Telesterion, the great hall of initiation, remains one of history's most tantalizing secrets, yet its impact echoes through the ages. For centuries, everyone from slaves to emperors made the sacred pilgrimage to be initiated into the mysteries of Demeter and Persephone. The journey itself was a ritual, a communal walk from Athens to Eleusis that stripped away social status, uniting all participants as equals before the goddess. Once inside the hall, the initiates experienced something so powerful that it fundamentally altered their perception of life and death. Ancient sources hint at a multi-sensory revelation, a dramatic pageant performed in near-total darkness, suddenly illuminated by a blinding flash of light. They may have been shown sacred objects, heard specific words, and perhaps even drank a special barley potion, a psychoactive brew that opened the gates of perception. The core of the experience was a direct, personal reenactment of the myth itself, the agonizing grief of Demeter at the loss of her daughter, and the ecstatic joy at her cyclical return from the underworld. This was not a story to be studied, but a trauma to be lived. By sharing in the goddess's despair and her ultimate triumph, the initiate underwent a symbolic death and rebirth. They emerged with an unshakable conviction, the promise that just as Persephone returned, so too would their own soul find bliss in the afterlife, free from the shadowy gloom of Hades. This personal guarantee of hope created an invisible, powerful community that cut across every social and political boundary. An Athenian potter, a Roman senator, and a Spartan soldier could meet as strangers, yet share a bond deeper than blood, a shared secret that promised they were not merely mortal, but part of an eternal, divine cycle. The Eleusinian Mysteries demonstrate that the most powerful beliefs are often those experienced in the heart, not just performed in the temple, a truth that stands in stark contrast to a festival where the entire point was the spectacular, public performance itself. High atop the stone terraces of Cusco, the entire Inca Empire held its breath. On the day of the winter solstice, when the sun reached its lowest point in the sky, the fate of the world hung in the balance. The great golden disk Inti had to be convinced to return. This was Inti Raymi, the festival of the sun, and it was the most critical event of the entire year, a magnificent and solemn plea for cosmic order. The Sapa Inca, the emperor himself believed to be the direct son of the sun god, presided over the elaborate ceremonies, draped in lavish textiles and adorned with gold that shimmered like the sun itself. He was the living link between the people and the divine. The ritual culminated in the sacrifice of hundreds of flawless black llamas, their hearts offered to Inti as a powerful payment, a necessary exchange to guarantee the sun's journey back north and the return of the growing season. But this was far more than a religious plea. It was a breathtaking display of imperial power. The central plaza overflowed with representatives from every corner of the vast empire, from the coastal fishermen to the highland potato farmers. They witnessed days of processions where the mummified bodies of past emperors were paraded alongside the living king, a powerful visual statement of an unbroken royal lineage. They saw dances performed by conquered peoples, their distinct costumes and movements now part of the Inca tapestry, a performance of forced unity. The sheer scale of the gold on display, the precision of the rituals, and the overwhelming presence of the army all communicated one undeniable message. The Sapa Inca commanded not just men but the very cosmos. By tying his own authority directly to the sun's cyclical journey, he made rebellion not just a political crime, but a sin against nature itself. This masterful fusion of astronomy, religion, and politics forged a shared identity across thousands of miles and hundreds of different cultures, uniting them all under the watchful eye of a single divine king. This theme of using a solar festival to cement imperial unity finds a powerful and direct parallel in the heart of another great empire, one that also understood the power of linking its ruler to the heavens. While the Inca pleaded for the sun's return, another civilization enacted a cosmic war to ensure the world's survival. In the cities of ancient Mesopotamia, the new year was not merely a turning of the calendar, but a time of profound existential danger. The Zagmuk festival was a 12-day battle against chaos itself, a dramatic reenactment of the creation story where the chief god Marduk had to defeat the monstrous Tiamat, the primordial sea of chaos. The entire community participated in this ritual combat, with processions and chants symbolizing the god's struggle. If the ritual failed, they believed chaos would flood back into the world, ending all order. The most astonishing part of this cosmic drama, however, was a breathtaking act of political theater designed to protect the king, the human anchor of that order. A substitute king ritual was performed. A common criminal, or sometimes a mentally disabled person, was taken from the streets and dressed in the royal robes. For a few precarious days, this substitute was treated as the true monarch, given all the luxuries and honors of the throne. But this was no honor, it was a sacrifice. The real king went into hiding, while this temporary ruler sat as a decoy, a literal lightning rod to absorb all the ill omens, curses, and celestial threats predicted for the new year. At the festival's climax, once the cosmic battle was won and order was secure, the substitute king was executed, along with his queen if one had been provided. His death carried away all the gathered misfortunes, purging the kingdom and allowing the true king to return to his throne, cleansed and safe for another year. This chilling practice reveals how deeply these festivals were woven into the fabric of survival. It was not about entertainment, but about using symbolic art and ritual as a shield against the terrifying randomness of fate. The community could watch this drama unfold, secure in the knowledge that the ultimate threat to their world had been identified, contained, and ceremoniously eliminated. This ritual management of cosmic fear through a staged sacrifice leads us to a final celebration that traded the sword for the plow, finding its power not in battling monsters, but in the quiet, essential act of planting a seed. The stone ball courts of the Maya were not arenas for entertainment, but portals to the cosmos. Here, during great festivals, teams engaged in the Pok-a-Tok, a game of such profound spiritual significance that the final score was a matter of life and death. Players, heavily padded with leather and wood to protect their bodies from the solid rubber ball, could not use their hands or feet. They had to strike the heavy sphere with their hips, elbows, and knees, aiming to drive it through a single, high stone ring set vertically on the court wall. The ball itself was a potent symbol, representing the sun in its perilous journey across the sky and through the underworld each night. The game was a reenactment of the eternal struggle between the heroic maize god and the lords of Xibalba, the dark realm of the dead. Every bounce of the ball echoed the movement of celestial bodies, and every play was a prayer for cosmic balance. The outcome determined the fate of the world. In some city-states, the captain of the victorious team, having proven his supreme strength and divine favor, would be the one chosen for the ultimate honor. He would be ritually decapitated, his soul sent on a direct, express journey to join the gods in the heavens. His sacrifice was not a punishment, but a transcendent reward, a willing offering of his life force to ensure the sun would rise again and the rains would nourish the corn. For the community watching, this was not a brutal spectacle but a solemn, necessary transaction. Their collective survival, the very fertility of their fields, was purchased with the blood of their finest champion. The entire event, from the intricate carvings on the court walls depicting the mythic struggle to the elaborate feathered regalia of the players, wove athleticism, art, and the most extreme faith into a single, terrifyingly beautiful ritual. It forged a community identity rooted in a shared, awesome responsibility for the universe itself, a stark reminder that their actions here on the court directly upheld the cosmic order. From this world of stone and sacrifice, we find a final, gentle counterpoint in a celebration that traded blood for petals, finding its power in pure, ephemeral beauty. The vibrant chaos of the Floralia did more than just entertain the Roman populace. It fundamentally bankrolled an artistic revolution. The state's lavish funding for the festival's plays and mimes created a stable economic environment for playwrights and performers, allowing Roman comedy to flourish and evolve. This genre, with its stock characters, clever slaves, and tangled plots of mistaken identity, became a blueprint that would be rediscovered and reinvented during the Renaissance, shaping the very foundations of modern European theatre. But the festival's influence seeped far beyond the stage. The goddess Flora herself, embodying the delicate power of a blooming flower, became an archetype. For centuries after Rome's fall, artists and poets returned to this potent connection, depicting spring not merely as a season, but as a graceful, feminine force scattering petals and inspiring renewal. You can see her legacy in Botticelli's Primavera, where the central figure is essentially Flora in all but name, a testament to how a single festival's core imagery could permeate the artistic subconscious for a millennium. This deep-seated link between feminine beauty, floral abundance, and creative fertility became a default setting in Western art, a quiet echo of a week-long spring party that convinced an entire culture to see joy and nature in a very specific, enduring light. How many other forgotten celebrations have left similar ghosts in our own collective imagination, subtly shaping the stories we tell and the beauty we recognize without us ever knowing their source? These threads of inversion, purification, and power reveal a hidden architecture to human culture. Across continents and centuries, societies independently crafted the same solutions to their deepest anxieties. The temporary chaos of the Saturnalia and the Festival of Fools was not mere rebellion. It was a brilliant psychological technology. By allowing the social order to be ceremoniously overturned for a few days, these festivals drained away resentments that could have otherwise shattered communities, making the return to normalcy feel like a relief rather than an oppression. Similarly, the communal fires of Beltane and the meticulous spring cleaning of Nowruz were not just practical acts. They were a collective response to the fear of decay and stagnation, a way for entire populations to participate directly in the renewal of their world, transforming abstract hope into tangible action, from driving cattle through smoke to arranging 7 symbolic items on a table. And in the grand spectacles of the Panathenaia and Inti Raymi, we see the ultimate fusion of art and authority. The breathtaking processions and the sacrifices on high mountain terraces were more than just shows of force. They were immersive experiences designed to make the power of the state feel as inevitable and divine as the rising sun or the return of the seasons. This stands in stark contrast to the intensely personal journey of the Eleusinian initiate, who sought not civic unity but a private promise of triumph over death. Together, these festivals formed a complex web of collective coping mechanisms. They managed the terror of the unknown, celebrated the sheer joy of being alive, forged unbreakable bonds of shared identity, and gave tangible, artistic form to a culture's most profound cosmic questions. They were the original operating system of civilization, running in the background to keep everything from falling apart. So where do these ancient rhythms live on in our own seemingly modern lives? These 22 forgotten festivals were not mere parties. They were the very operating system of civilization. They were the crucibles where belief was tested in the fires of collective experience, where art was born from the need to give form to the divine, and where community was solidified through shared ritual. Whether through the ecstatic liberation of the Dionysian rites or the solemn, unifying processions of the Panathenaia, these gatherings address the most fundamental human cravings for connection that transcends the individual, for meaning in a mysterious world, and for a voice to express both joy and terror. The echoes of these ancient rhythms are not silent. They resonate in the holidays we celebrate today. The gift-giving of the Saturnalia, the bonfires that once honored Beltane, the deep cleaning that prepares for Nowruz. Our modern traditions carry the DNA of these ancient practices, a hidden history written in the language of celebration. They remind us that there was a time when the sacred and the social were woven from the same thread, when a community's relationship with the cosmos was acted out in the streets for all to see. So the next time you gather for a holiday, look past the surface. Ask what ancient human need is being fulfilled, what forgotten story is being retold. What part of your own celebration connects to a festival lost to time? If this journey into the past has illuminated the present for you, we would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And subscribe for more voyages into history's greatest